Hello, and thank you for attending today's webinar, How to Win More Deals with Calculators, the Secret Weapon to Achieve Dealer Sales Acceleration. My name is Tom Paul. I'm the CEO of Pop Art Inc. and the founder of BAM Dealer Sales Enablement here in Portland, Oregon. And in the next 60 minutes, you are going to learn my exact strategy and tactics on how to accelerate dealer sales with calculators. So what if I told you that by using the right kind of calculators in a new way, you could increase sales velocity, that you could change customer perception of your dealers when they interact with them, that you could elevate dealer education and make your entire dealer sales network more informed and effective, even increase brand loyalty when it comes to the buyers of your equipment, even to create a sustainable dealer growth model so that no matter how quickly you're adding new dealers to your sales network, you can manage it and handle it without all the stress and headaches that you face today. Well, first, a story. Back in 2010, Freightliner was launching its new truck, and it was suffering from a number of issues that had plagued it for a period of time, but that really came into focus when the new truck was launched. So we worked with them to create the Freightliner sales tool, a simple, visual, and interactive way for dealers to share information about their trucks, offering a way to explore the interior cab of the truck and the features and benefits not only of the interior but the exterior as well. But it was really shortly after launch when we deployed a new calculator, the RCO Real Cost of Ownership calculator, that we were surprised to get feedback from our client. He called us and said, "Tom, we are selling trucks all the time because of the calculator." And we were all a bit surprised by it. We knew that it would be helpful for the dealers to be able to share financial information so that they could compare one truck with a competitor's truck. But we were all struck by how quickly and effectively it translated into more sales. And so after that, we launched a number of calculators for trucking and heavy equipment clients. Everything from total cost and real cost of ownership to finance calculators shown here, extended coverage, multiple types of ROI calculators, and even specific configuration. And over that time, we have seen again and again that it is possible to greatly accelerate and improve dealer sales training and effectiveness with calculators, provided that certain best practices are followed. And so why is it important to run the numbers anyway? Well, it's pretty clear that in a B2B sale, it's always going to be about the numbers ultimately. Business buyers care about the financial impact that a rented or purchased piece of equipment is going to have on their job site, their project, their contract. And so therefore, it is incumbent upon the manufacturer and the dealer to have a good way to show those numbers quickly. How do you show the numbers today? Maybe you're not really showing them at all, you're sharing them more anecdotally, or perhaps there's an Excel document that's on somebody's computer or laptop. And how are your competitors showing? Maybe they're doing better than you, or maybe they're stuck in the same place you are with an outdated, hard to manage calculator, and nobody's maybe doing very well. Reminds me of an old joke my dad used to tell me. Two friends are hiking, and in the distance they see a fast approaching bear. One of them quickly pulls out his running shoes and puts them on, and his friend says, "You don't think you can outrun a bear, do you?" And he says, "Well, I don't have to outrun the bear. I just have to outrun you." Good friend, of course. But the point being that there are a few potential benchmarks for comparison when you look at how you run the numbers and share them with potential buyers of your products. Business buyers are notoriously willing to change vendor. Only 25% of contractors, for example, buy the same brand every time. The point being that if you have a calculator and they don't, or they do and yours is better, you stand a good chance of winning the business because you're differentiated. Sales velocity is really the operative concept today because while I'm going to show you that sales calculators have many benefits to the manufacturer, dealer, and customer, ultimately the actual impact we can see through this formula. The sales velocity, as a review, is a function of the number of opportunities that you have, the average deal size, the win rate divided by the length of the sales cycle. Now, probably in any sales organization, you're looking at ways to get more opportunities through marketing, to increase deal size through upselling and value generation, to increase win rates by training your dealers and educating the customer better. But ultimately, where calculators can truly make the greatest impact on sales velocity is by decreasing the length of the sales cycle. Because after all, once the customer comes to the dealership and begins talking with the dealer or the distributor, there are a lot of questions that come up. And what extends the sales cycles beyond where they should be is the back and forth of the dealer needing to go find the information and get back to the buyer. It can stretch into hours, days, even weeks while they call around and look for the information. Ultimately, by being able to run the numbers, the most important thing to the business buyer quickly, even on the spot, and share that information with the buyer, the length of the sales cycle will be dramatically reduced by a corresponding amount. So what's the situation today? Well, the current state is that there are some calculators that are in use by equipment manufacturers, but a lot of times they're in a spreadsheet that's hard to access, and there are one or two experts in-house, and only they really know how to use it. Let's call the expert Bob. Now, the advantage of such a solution is that it's homegrown, and ultimately, all you need is a license of Excel or access to Drive, and you can whip something up. But there are many downsides, including they're fragile. I've been in live presentations where dealers have showed me a calculator and it's broken for no apparent reason, and it's just not clear why. And anyway, these types of calculators were probably never built in the first place to share with customers. It was more a back office function where a dealer is trying to go back and get an answer for a question posed by a buyer. And so ultimately, this is just something happening at their desk. They don't really need it to be polished or attractive or particularly high performing. But the problem is, and I've seen this again and again, if it's only on Bob's computer, well, where's Bob? Maybe he's on vacation. Maybe he's sick. Who knows? Maybe he suddenly left his job for some reason. Well, did he leave his laptop here? I think the password's on a post-it note somewhere. This is just an old and honestly somewhat ridiculous way to operate. It's too complicated. It's hard for dealers to access. It's difficult to update for the manufacturer. Nobody really trusts the numbers. It's all dependent upon Bob, and it requires training. If you want to create a second Bob, then you need to go through the training. And nobody's really confident using it. And the ultimate output is it just doesn't get used very much at all. Maybe Bob uses it, but nobody else really wants to touch it. The saying goes, if you want people to do the right thing, you've got to make it easy for them to do the right thing. And that's where modern calculators come in. We know the importance of running numbers for a business buyer of heavy equipment. And so let's envision a future in which we're not shackled to the current reality of weak, ineffective spreadsheets. What if you could have a web-based or mobile app-based calculator that everyone could access? Every single dealer could either go to their computer and get it through the web or access it through a mobile app on their mobile device, their phone or their tablet. What if those dealers could pick it up and use it with almost no training at all? And what if it was a good customer experience? What if it was great for answering questions live and then sending follow-up afterwards? Oh, would you like me to share the numbers on rent versus buy? Would you like to see how much profit you can make per week if you operate it for 40 hours a week? Oh, only 20 hours a week. Great. Let's rerun the numbers. Here you go. I can share that with you if you like. And ultimately, as you can see in this example of this calculator right here, it is fast performing, it's incredibly easy to use, and it presents a good customer experience. So dealers can feel confident when they have a calculator of this ease and quality to share it live with a customer. Ultimately, so easy that everyone in the dealer network is going to want to use it. Be proud to show it to customers because it reflects the same kind of commitment that your brand makes to the product quality. And this is a way of reinforcing that. So here's a framework that aligns the customer, dealer, and manufacturer in multiple ways and truly demonstrates the power and capability of well-used sales calculators. So let's put ourselves in the customer mind frame. What's the customer want to do? Well, the customer wants to know the ROI on a piece of equipment so that various different types of equipment can be compared head to head. The customer is going to be very impressed if the dealer can answer all their questions. We know from research and from studies that right now customers are very frustrated because they do not get all of their questions answered right away. And imagine if you could show them everything from ROI and load capacity to configuration and even weekly profit. What about the dealer perspective? Well, with the customer, we want the customer to make a purchase. With the dealer, we're looking to make it easier for them to educate the customer. And so what's the dealer going to say if this program is successful? Well, it's really easy for me to run the numbers. I can give the customer information they need so that they can make a decision, and it makes the sales cycles go so much faster, increasing the sales velocity. And for the manufacturer, we want to make it easy to manage the information behind the calculator because after all, if the calculator is very hard to update and difficult to manage, then it's simply not going to be a long-lived application or web app. So the manufacturer needs to be saying things like, it takes us very little time to manage this. We know how important accuracy is, so being able to easily update the numbers and publish the newest version to everybody instantly is just huge and necessary. So let's first take a look at the customer perspective. And we want to make it easy for them to make a purchase, which means that they need to get the answers that they have immediately. Whatever questions, we want the dealer to be able to answer those right away. Ultimately, we want the customer to be able to make an informed buying decision. And even if the customer isn't buying our equipment, if we can provide information that makes it easier for the customer to make a decision, there's loyalty that is engendered there. They're going to trust us. The problem of expertise is simple. In study after study, the dealer is not seen as the expert by the buyer, and that's a problem. So how do calculators help? Well, first of all, the customer's main goal is to solve a problem and to see if your product can help them do it. And so therefore, it's important to make it easy for the customer to learn about your product and reach a buying decision faster, and to build loyalty and become a repeat customer. Again, only 25% of buyers choose the same brand time after time. So what about for the dealer? If we want to make it easier for the customer to make an informed decision and a purchase, what do we want the dealer to be able to do? Well, with the dealer, clearly it's all about being able to answer those questions faster and with more authority. So if there's a problem of expertise today where buyers do not see the dealer as the expert, then what's the solution? Well, part of it is that if we can give better information from the manufacturing side to the dealer, then they can look more like an expert. If we make it easier for them to sell, then they're going to look more like an expert than an order taker. So how do calculators help the dealer? Well, there's two sides to a sale. There's the relational and the informational side. The relational side is all about the buyer. It's focused on their problems, how we can solve. It's a little bit like a consultative sale, but it's really about being focused on what's going to help them. The informational side is, well, What's the horsepower? What are the specific features and benefits and operating parameters of this piece of equipment? And so what we want to do is we want to make it easier for the dealer to be able to focus on the relational side and provide them with greater support on the informational side of the sale. And so we must make it easy to do what? Well, for the dealer to educate and engage the buyer, because ultimately that is the point. It's not the point to sell equipment to people that don't need it. It's to educate them and engage them and make them have the information that they need to make the decision. And one of the key bonuses here is that by providing greater informational support in calculators, training goes faster for new reps. There's always going to be some attrition in your dealer network. And so when you have 1, 2, 3 reps coming on, you want to be able to facilitate faster training. And if you can provide them with calculators, that is going to greatly accelerate their ability to communicate with customers in a confident way, the right information they need to. And an even bigger bonus is that if your company is going through growth, if you are adding new dealers to your sales network, then by having sales calculators like this, you can greatly enhance your ability to scale up your network more quickly. You reduce your reliance upon visiting the dealers in person and upon giving them old, outdated training that doesn't make much sense. Ultimately, giving the dealers the tools like calculators to be able to inform the customer is the key point and the key opportunity to grow your dealer network faster. And then finally, the maker of the equipment, the manufacturer. So what do we want the manufacturer to do? Well, certainly make it easier for dealers to sell and customers to buy, and to manage the calculator program with high impact continuous improvement. After all, a calculator program is not a set it and forget it type of thing. It's a living program. Numbers will change, data will change, calculator needs will change, the information customers require will change over time. And so you have to have a program rolled out as such that you can manage and improve upon. The problem of continuous improvement comes down to analytics. As Drucker said, you can't improve what you don't measure, and so analytics are required. We must make it easy for the manufacturer to give accurate and powerful tools to the entire extended sales network. Again, it's informational support. Must make it easy to update numbers as often as necessary with ease. For all of this to work, the numbers have to be current and accurate, which requires updating and monitoring. To accelerate sales with a shorter sales cycle and thus higher sales velocity, and to empower dealers. Finally, to create a world-class customer experience, because ultimately, if the customer has a great experience with the dealer at the dealership, sees and perceives the level of expertise that we're looking for, that will put them in a more confident place to buy or rent your equipment. So in summary, what are best practice calculator programs? What are the best practices that drive them? And some common questions that come up get pretty specific when companies start looking at calculator programs, such as, should we offer it as a web-based calculator or as a mobile app? How does the dealer share the results afterwards, such as in a PDF form, in Excel? Are there graphs? Are there other things like that? So these are all good questions, but they're tactical questions. And what we need to do is we need to take a step back and we need to ask ourselves, what are the general best practices? Okay, what are the things that we know in terms of principles that we need to follow to have an effective calculator program, regardless of the ultimate implementation? First and foremost, it's about bang for buck. It's about the 80-20 principle, the Pareto principle, which is you need to start small. And so you got to focus on the 20% that are going to make the 80% of the impact. So for example, most customers we talk to start with an ROI calculator, possibly a basic one, maybe an operational one to show the difference between rent and purchase. But in terms of the more advanced configuration options and things, generally those come later. So it's important to start somewhere. And you always need to focus on what's going to make the biggest impact right away. Second thing is the dealer needs to be able to provide answers and be able to run the numbers and provide context and value within 1 minute. With a modern calculator, that's the least you should expect. It's got to be so self-explanatory that really no training is required. If you hand this URL or a mobile app to one of your dealers, they really need to be able to just pick it up and start using it. And then you need the analytics and the feedback loop so that you can monitor usage and adoption over time, because that is truly how you're going to measure the effectiveness of the program. Otherwise, you're falling into the field of dreams trap, where you build it and you think it's great and then nobody comes and uses it. And then finally, in terms of continuous improvement, this is again a program. So you need to establish metrics and then schedule review periods. On a monthly basis, you're probably going to be looking at analytics, total adoption, in terms of how that's charting over time. And to the extent that you're getting any specific dealer feedback, you may want to review a little bit of that as well, just as a check-in. On a quarterly basis, you're going to be looking at sales correlations, probably taking a look at aggregate dealer feedback through a survey that you're going to send out. What do the dealers think about the calculators? How often are they using it? Again, with the sales correlation. Ideally, you can track a through line directly to the sales. That's really powerful. And then annually looking at opportunities to add or even retire calculators, extend features, and combine with the annual dealer meeting. So that's a great idea. Most equipment manufacturers who have a dealer network, third-party channel sales, and distributors are going to have some form of an annual dealer meeting or annual sales meeting. This is a great opportunity to just have an ongoing agenda item where you are going to show whatever the latest is with the calculators, walk people through it, get them excited about it, and again, show them anything that's new and show them how to use it. But the important takeaway from the best practices is that the outcomes, the measurements in terms of customer experience, increased sales velocity are always going to be more important than following hard and fast rules. It's the principles and the best practices here that can help you to generate the value, regardless of whether you're creating a web app, a mobile app, or even if you're just trying to extend your Excel calculator spreadsheet. Ultimately, following the best practices will put you and your dealers in the best position to get the improved training outcomes, the increased sales velocity, the shorter sales cycle times that you need in order to accelerate your dealer sales. As you look at your options for potentially rolling out a calculator program, there is an easy button, if you like, a way that we can offer you to potentially go a little bit faster in rolling this out. And that's not to say that you can't, again, roll this out yourselves, hire a developer, build it from the ground up. But we have these best practices because we've been developing calculators for the last 2 decades. And what we've done is we've taken a lot of those best practices and learnings and put them into our dealer sales enablement platform called BAM, which ultimately is a single source of truth, information for your dealers so that they can always have the information at their fingertips. And again, so that they can shorten the sales cycle times and increase their sales velocity. Every time a customer has a question, a buyer has a question, we want that dealer to be able to answer it. Yes, of course, the dealer should know off the top of their head most of the answers that they're going to be, to the questions that they're going to be asked. But there will be times when they don't. And when they don't, we want them to be able to get those answers in under a minute. So whether it's product information, marketing, whatever it is, simply being a click or two away. And that goes for calculators too. Calculators don't have to be extremely expensive. They don't have to take a long time to implement. In fact, they can be rolled out pretty quickly. And that's why we built the BAM platform, is because we wanted to create a platform that could be a single repository accessible via mobile app for the dealer to have all of the information needed to support customers in their buying cycle and in their decision making. Here's my contact information. If you'd be interested in seeing how BAM can help your business, or if you'd just like to have a general conversation about sales calculators and how you can accelerate your dealer sales, please reach out at my email tom@bamsales.io. Or if you'd just like to check out some information on our product and how we approach calculators, please visit bamsales.io. Thank you.